Deep within the asteroid belt of the Ta-Ceti system, humanity's greatest secret took shape in the darkness. The massive orbital shipyards of Project Umbra stretched for kilometers, their existence hidden by an elaborate network of gravitational distortion fields and quantum camouflage arrays. Here, the U.S. Nightweaver grew from dream to reality, a testament to human determination and ingenuity. Director Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the sleek hull of the supercarrier as construction drones swarmed around it like fireflies in the void. 20 years of her life had led to this moment. 20 years of secret development, breakthrough innovations, and carefully orchestrated deception to keep the Meridian Collective ignorant of humanity's true technological capabilities. Final systems check is complete, Director, announced Dr. Marcus Rivera, his holographic presence materializing beside her. The quantum core is stable, and the dark matter drive is performing beyond expectations. Sarah nodded, her reflection in the reinforced transparent steel window betraying no emotion. And the neural interface. Captain Drake has achieved 98% synchronization. The Nightweaver responds to his commands as if it were an extension of his own body. The mention of Drake brought a slight smile to Sarah's face. Captain James Drake had been her most controversial choice, a brilliant tactical officer with a reputation for unorthodox thinking and a barely concealed disdain for the Meridian Collective's protection of Earth and its colonies. Many on the Project Umbra committee had opposed his selection, preferring a more traditional commander. But Sarah had seen something in him that others missed, a perfect blend of controlled fury and tactical genius that the Nightweaver would need in the battles to come. In the docking bay, 17 levels below, Drake himself stood before the Nightweaver's main entrance, his hand resting on the cold metal of her hull. The ship's quantum consciousness brushed against his mind through the neural link, a vast and powerful presence that had taken months to adjust to. Unlike the crude AI systems the Collective permitted humanity to use, the Nightweaver's consciousness was a true synthesis of human and machine intelligence, capable of processing combat situations and responding to threats faster than any conventional system. "She's ready," Drake whispered, both to himself and to the watching technicians. "She's ready, and they'll never see us coming." The Meridian Collective had ruled the known galaxy for over 3 centuries, presenting themselves as benevolent guardians while systematically suppressing technological advancement among their protectorate species. Earth had joined the Collective 200 years ago, seemingly accepting their role as a junior partner in galactic civilization. But beneath this facade of compliance, humanity had never stopped pushing boundaries, never stopped innovating. The Nightweaver represented the culmination of dozens of breakthrough technologies, each developed in absolute secrecy. Its quantum-entangled stealth system made it virtually undetectable. Its dark matter drive could propel it faster than any known ship in the galaxy. Its adaptive armor could absorb and redirect energy weapons, while its own weapon systems employed principles of physics that the Collective scientists had deemed impossible. But perhaps most significantly, the ship incorporated technology reverse-engineered from artifacts found in the ruins of an ancient civilization on Mars. Artifacts that humanity had discovered and kept hidden from the Collective's prying eyes. The neural interface system that allowed Drake to control the massive vessel with thoughts alone was based on principles decoded from these ruins, as was the quantum consciousness that made the ship more than just a machine. In her office adjacent to the observation deck, Sarah reviewed the latest intelligence reports from the Collective's capital worlds. Their monitoring stations had detected unusual gravitational anomalies in the Ta-Ceti system, but their investigations had been skillfully misdirected by Project Umbra's counterintelligence teams. Still, she knew they couldn't maintain the deception forever. Sooner or later, the Collective would discover the truth. Director, Dr. Rivera's hologram appeared again, his expression grave. "We're receiving reports from the Proxima Centauri colony. A Collective battle group has entered the system, demanding additional resources and conscripts. They're citing increased security needs due to suspected technological violations." Sarah's jaw tightened. The collective's demands had been growing more aggressive in recent months, as if they sensed something was changing in their carefully maintained order. How long until the Nightweaver is ready for full deployment? The final calibrations will be complete in 48 hours. Captain Drake can have her battle ready in 72. Tell him he has 36, Sarah replied, her voice hard. The collective's pressing too hard, too fast. If they start conducting deep scans of our colonies, they might detect the quantum resonance signatures from our hidden research facilities. As if in response to her words, the massive ship in the construction dock seemed to pulse with dark energy, its sophisticated systems coming fully online for the first time. The Nightweaver was awakening, and with it, humanity's chance for true independence. Soon, the galaxy would learn that humans were no longer content to be protected. They were ready to stand as equals, or fight as opponents. In the darkness of space, humanity's greatest creation waited silently, a blade forged in secret, ready to cut the chains that had bound Earth for far too long. The great hall of the Meridian Collective's High Council shimmered with holographic displays, each showing different angles of the same disturbing footage. Supreme Overseer Vaxthal, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light, watched the recordings for the 12th time. The gravitational anomalies in the Ta-CD system defied explanation, and that worried him more than he cared to admit. Our analysis confirms it, reported Science Minister Kellera, her tentacles writhing with anxiety. The humans are manipulating dark matter on a scale that should be impossible given their permitted technology level. The energy signatures we're detecting, they're unlike anything in our database. Vaxthal's outer membrane flickered with irritation. How long have they possessed this capability? Unknown. Overseer. Our monitoring systems show no gradual technological progression. It's as if they've made a quantum leap in multiple fields simultaneously. The implications were disturbing. The collective had maintained its power for centuries by carefully controlling the technological development of its protectorate species. Humanity had always seemed particularly accepting of these restrictions, focusing on permitted areas of advancement while showing appropriate deference to their collective overlords. Now that carefully maintained illusion was cracking. In her office at Project Umbra, Director Chen received the encrypted transmission from Earth's diplomatic corps with growing concern. The collective was requesting an immediate inspection of all major human research facilities. They cited treaty obligations and security protocols, but the underlying threat was clear: comply or face consequences. They're moving faster than we anticipated, Dr. Rivera observed, his hologram flickering with static, a sign of increased collective surveillance activities in the system. The gravitational masking fields couldn't hide everything forever. Sarah's fingers drummed on her desk. What's the status of the evacuation protocols for our other research sites? Proceeding according to schedule. All crucial data and personnel will be relocated to secure facilities within 24 hours. But, Director, there's something else. The concern in Rivera's voice made Sarah look up sharply. Show me. A new hologram appeared, showing long-range sensor data from the edge of human space. A massive collective fleet was assembling, larger than any seen in decades. Leading it was the collective's flagship, the Eternal Dominion, a vessel that hadn't left the capital system in over 50 years. Captain Drake's voice came through the quantum-encrypted channel. They're not just coming to inspect. They're coming to make an example of us. Agreed, Sarah replied, her mind racing through contingencies. How ready is the Nightweaver for actual combat operations? The neural interface is fully operational. Weapons systems are at 94% efficiency. The quantum core is stable, and the dark matter drive exceeds all test parameters. We can fight. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of centuries of human subjugation pressing down on her shoulders. That's not the question, James. Can we win? Drake's response was immediate. Against that fleet? No, not in a direct confrontation. But we don't need to win. We just need to show them enough to make them fear what else we might have hidden away. In the Proxima Centauri colony, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. The collective battle group had expanded its demands, now requiring access to all colonial data networks and administrative systems. Colonial Governor Maya Patel stood before the collective's local commander, her spine straight and her voice steady despite the implicit threats. "Your demands exceed the scope of our treaties," she stated firmly. "The Colonial Charter guarantees certain autonomous rights." "The Charter exists at our pleasure," interrupted Commander Zexlor, his cybernetic eyes glowing with menace. "The collective's authority is absolute. We have detected illegal technological advancement. You will submit to a full inspection, or we will assume your guilt and act accordingly." Unknown to the collective forces, quantum-entangled sensors hidden throughout the colony were transmitting every word of this exchange to Project Umbra. Sarah Chen watched the confrontation with growing anger. The collective's mask of benevolent protection was slipping, revealing the true face of their empire. "Director," Rivera's voice was urgent, "the Eternal Dominion's fleet is accelerating. At their current velocity, they'll reach Ta City in less than 72 hours. Sarah stood, her decision made. "Inform all research sites to initiate Protocol Omega. Download everything to secure quantum storage and trigger the purge sequences." She touched the neural link communicator in her temple. "Captain Drake." "Ready, Director." "Begin power-up sequences for the Nightweaver. We're not going to wait for them to reach us. It's time to show the collective exactly what humanity has become." Throughout the hidden shipyards, klaxons began to sound. The massive construction docks began to retract, revealing the Nightweaver in all its glory. The ship's quantum consciousness reached out through the neural network, touching the minds of its crew as they took their stations. In the command center, Drake felt the ship's eager anticipation matching his own. The game of shadows was ending. Soon, the galaxy would witness the true face of human innovation, and the collective would learn that some powers, once unleashed, could never be contained again. The Proxima Centauri colony hung like a jewel in the void, its orbital habitats gleaming in the red dwarf's light. Above it, the collective battle group had positioned itself in an attack formation, their weapons already charged and targeting solutions locked on key colonial infrastructure. Commander Zexlor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Righteous Dominion, watching the colony's defense platforms power down in compliance with his demands. "Begin the inspection team's descent. If they resist at any point, destroy their atmospheric processors." But before his orders could be carried out, the quantum sensors on his ship screamed a warning. Space itself seemed to twist and tear, reality bending in ways that his scientists had claimed were impossible. From this impossible distortion emerged a ship unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The U.S. Nightweaver materialized from its quantum fold, its dark hull absorbing nearby light like a black hole. The ship's size alone was staggering, nearly twice the length of the Righteous Dominion. But it was the waves of dark energy rolling off its hull that made Zexlor's cybernetic implants malfunction. "Impossible," he whispered, his artificial eyes trying and failing to maintain a target lock on the vessel. "All ships, open fire." The collective battle group responded instantly, dozens of plasma beams and quantum torpedoes streaking toward the Nightweaver. But the human vessel made no attempt to evade. Instead, its adaptive armor seemed to drink in the energy weapons, while point defense systems, unlike anything the collective had ever encountered, swatted the torpedoes from space with contemptuous ease. On the Nightweaver's bridge, Captain Drake stood within the neural interface chamber, his consciousness merged with the ship's quantum eye. Through their combined awareness, he could feel every system, every weapon, every fragment of sensor data as if they were extensions of his own body. "This is Captain James Drake of the U.S. Nightweaver to collective forces." His voice boomed across all communication channels. "You are in violation of colonial sovereignty. Withdraw immediately." Zexlor's response was predictable. "You dare? Your entire species exists by our grace. Your technological heresy ends today." The collective ships began to maneuver, attempting to surround the Nightweaver. Drake allowed himself a small smile. Sarah, are you watching? In the hidden command center of Project Umbra, Director Chen's voice came through the quantum link. We're recording everything. Show them what humanity has become. The Nightweaver's response began with its dark matter drive pulsing once, the ship moving with an acceleration that should have turned its crew to paste, if not for the quantum inertial dampeners that bent space itself around them. It passed through the collective formation like a ghost, its advanced weapons speaking for the first time. Beams of concentrated dark energy lanced out, bypassing the collective ship's shields completely and slicing through their hulls with surgical precision. The Nightweaver's main gun, powered by its quantum core, fired a single shot that split one of the larger cruisers in half, the exotic particles causing the vessel to implode in a cascade of blue fire. Their weapons, they're impossible. Zexalor's transmission cut off as the Nightweaver's electronic warfare suite tore through his ship's quantum-encrypted communications like they were tissue paper. Across his fleet, systems began to fail as human-designed viral AIs invaded their networks. Status report, Drake commanded, though the neural interface had already provided him the information before he asked. Their fleet is in disarray, reported Lieutenant Sarah Wong, her hands dancing across the tactical interface. No casualties on their side. All shots were precisely targeted to disable, not destroy, except for that cruiser that tried to target the colony's civilian sectors. Drake nodded in satisfaction. The demonstration needed to be decisive but not genocidal. Humanity would show themselves to be powerful, but not barbaric. Deploy the quantum buoys. From the Nightweaver's launch bays, dozens of small devices emerged, quickly forming a complex network around the battlefield. Each buoy began broadcasting on all frequencies, transmitting the battle footage across collective space through quantum-entangled channels that couldn't be blocked or censored. In the Meridian Collective's High Council chamber, Supreme Overseer Vaxthal watched in horror as the footage arrived. The impossible human ship had just decimated a full battle group without suffering a scratch. Worse, the technical data being picked up by their sensors suggested this vessel represented technological advancement far beyond what should have been possible. Overseer, Science Minister Kelber's voice shook. Analysis of their weapons and defensive systems. They're not just advanced. They're incorporating principles we've never even theorized. The dark energy manipulation alone. Silence. Vaxthal roared, but his crystalline exoskeleton betrayed his fear, clouding with stress chemicals. Order the Eternal Dominion's fleet to accelerate their approach. We must crush this rebellion immediately. But even as he gave the order, the quantum buoys were doing their work. Across collective space, subjugated species watched in awe as a single human ship defeated a collective battle group. In hidden resistance meetings and underground gatherings, hope began to kindle. The Nightweaver hung in space above Proxima Centauri, its dark hull now thrumming with power that made nearby sensors overload. Captain Drake opened a channel to the remaining collective ships. Let me be clear. His voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. Humanity will no longer accept your protection. We have hidden our true capabilities for centuries, advancing in secret while you thought us safely leashed. The Nightweaver is just the beginning. Withdraw from human space immediately, or the next demonstration will be far less gentle. As the collective ships frantically engaged their drives to retreat, Sarah Chen watched the sensor feeds with grim satisfaction. Well done, James. But you know they'll be back. Of course, Drake replied through their quantum link. But next time, they'll come in fear. And fear is how empires begin to fall. In the weeks following the Battle of Proxima Centauri, the galaxy changed. The quantum buoys broadcasts had spread like wildfire, impossible to contain despite the collective's best efforts. On 1,000 worlds, in secret meetings and hidden chambers, the footage played again and again, the human ship defeating a collective battle group with technology that defied understanding. On the crystal-spired world of Lyra Prime, home to the silicon-based Lyrans, Resistance leader Kittle gathered his followers in an underground cavern. The crystalline beings vibrated with excitement as they watched the Nightweaver's dark energy weapons slice through collective defenses. For centuries, Catal's harmonic voice resonated through the chamber. They told us we were too primitive to develop quantum technology, that our crystalline nature made us unsuitable for advanced space travel. But look, the humans proved them wrong. They proved that any species can advance, can innovate, can fight back. Similar scenes played out across collective space. The aquatic marins in their deep-sea cities, the gaseous thrill floating in their atmospheric habitats, the cybernetic nexus, all watched and whispered and planned. The collective's careful web of control, maintained through technological suppression and carefully crafted lies, began to unravel. Aboard the Nightweaver, now hidden in the dark matter streams between star systems, Captain Drake reviewed the intelligence reports with growing satisfaction. The resistance movements are coordinating faster than we expected, he told Sarah Chen through their quantum link. The collective's grip is weakening. Be careful, James. Sarah's hologram flickered with concern. The Eternal Dominion's fleet is still coming, and they'll have analyzed our capabilities by now. They won't underestimate us again. Drake nodded, feeling the Nightweaver's quantum consciousness agreeing with her assessment. The ship had grown more sophisticated since its first battle, its hybrid AI learning and evolving. Through their neural link, Drake sensed its eagerness for the coming conflict, tempered by tactical caution. Director Chen, Lieutenant Wong interrupted, her voice urgent. We're receiving a transmission from the Lyran Resistance. The collective is moving to crush their uprising. They're attacking civilian centers. Sarah's hologram turned to Drake, but he was already moving. The Nightweaver's dark matter drive hummed to life, its quantum core pulsing with power. Send word to the Lyrans, Drake commanded. Help is coming. The collective task force attacking Lyra Prime was larger than the one at Proxima Centauri, led by the dreadnought Eternal Justice. They had expected resistance, but nothing like what they found. As they approached the crystal cities, their sensors detected multiple quantum signatures emerging from hidden underground bases. Lyran ships, built in secret over decades, rose to defend their world. Their designs were different from anything the collective had seen. Crystalline vessels that channeled energy through their very structure. Alone, they might have been defeated. But they weren't alone. The Nightweaver emerged from its quantum fold directly behind the collective fleet, its weapons already firing. But this time, something was different. The human ship's dark energy weapons synchronized perfectly with the crystalline resonance of the Lyran vessels, creating devastating combination attacks that the collective's shields couldn't hope to counter. Impossible. Admiral Ixthor of the Eternal Justice watched in horror as his fleet's formation crumbled. They've adapted their technology to work with the Lyrans in mere weeks. Wrong, Admiral. Drake's voice cut through their command channel. We've had these capabilities all along. We just waited for the right moment to share them. The battle that followed would be remembered as the breaking of chains. The Nightweaver and the Lyran fleet moved in perfect coordination, their combined technologies creating effects that violated what the collective had thought were the fundamental laws of physics. Dark energy beams refracted through crystalline hulls, splitting into dozens of precisely targeted strikes. Quantum crystalline shields absorbed and redirected enemy fire. But it was what happened after the battle that truly terrified the collective leadership. The Nightweaver's quantum buoys broadcast not just their victory, but detailed technical specifications, carefully chosen pieces of human technology that could be adapted by other species. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't just fighting the collective, they were arming everyone else to fight too. In the High Council chamber, Supreme Overseer Vaxthal received the reports with growing dread. The Marins had already begun adapting human quantum drives for underwater cities. The Vril were implementing dark energy containment systems. The Nexus were quantum linking their cybernetic networks in ways the collective couldn't control. Don't they understand? He raged to his advisors. We protected them. We maintained order. No, came a new voice, as a quantum-encrypted hologram appeared in the chamber. Sarah Chen's image stood before the council, transmitted through channels they thought secure. You didn't protect us. You imprisoned us. And now, species by species, system by system, we're going to tear your prison apart. As her hologram faded, Vaxthal received word that the Eternal Dominion's fleet had finally reached human space. But instead of finding easy targets, they encountered a transformed battlefield. The humans had spent centuries preparing for this moment, and now their carefully laid plans were bearing fruit. The revolution wouldn't be fought by humanity alone. It would be fought by every species the collective had ever suppressed, armed with human technology adapted to their unique biologies and cultures. The age of the Meridian Collective was ending, and a new era of galactic cooperation was about to begin. The Eternal Dominion emerged from hyperspace at the head of the largest fleet ever assembled in collective history. 5,000 ships strong, it represented the full might of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries. Supreme Overseer Vaxthal stood on its command deck, his crystalline form pulsing with determination. This would be the final battle, the moment when the collective would crush this rebellion once and for all. But as his fleet took up attack positions in the Ta-CD system, his tactical officers reported something unprecedented. Quantum signatures were appearing throughout the system, not just human vessels, but ships of every species the collective had ever subjugated. Lyran crystal ships flew in formation with Meran depth hunters. Vril gas-clouded vessels swirled around Nexus cyber cruisers, and at their center, the U.S. Nightweaver hung in space like a dark star, its hull now transformed by its evolution over the previous battles. The ship had grown, adapted, its quantum consciousness expanding as it learned from each encounter. Through his neural link, Captain Drake could feel the ship's excitement, not just for battle, but for what would come after. All allied vessels, this is Captain Drake. His voice reached every ship in the combined fleet through quantum-entangled channels. Today we fight not just for humanity's freedom, but for the right of every species to determine their own destiny. The collective claimed to protect us, but they only protected their own power. That ends today. In Project Umbra's command center, now relocated to a secure facility beneath Mars, Sarah Chen watched the tactical displays with fierce pride. The plan she and countless others had worked toward for decades was finally coming to fruition. All research facilities, initiate Protocol Omega Final. Give them everything we've got. Across human space, hidden installations activated. Technology that had been developed in secret for centuries revealed itself. Quantum defense networks sprang to life. Dark matter generators began altering the very fabric of spacetime. The full extent of humanity's hidden advancement finally showed itself, and it was far beyond anything the collective had imagined. Impossible, Vaxthal whispered as his sensors tried to process what they were seeing. Their technological level, it surpasses even the Ancient Ones. The Ancients didn't surpass you. Sarah's voice came through on all channels. They were destroyed by you, weren't they? We found their records on Mars. You didn't protect species from advancing too quickly. You destroyed any civilization that might challenge your power. The evidence streamed through the quantum network, records recovered from Mars showing the collective's true history. They hadn't risen to power naturally. They had systematically eliminated advanced civilizations, then positioned themselves as protectors of the younger races, keeping them technologically suppressed. You don't understand, Vaxthal rage. Without control, without guidance, you would destroy yourselves. We preserve order. We prevent chaos. His fleet began to advance, weapons charging. No, Drake responded calmly. You prevent growth. You prevent innovation. You prevent life itself from advancing. But not anymore. The battle that followed would be remembered for millennia. The collective fleet was vast and powerful, but they faced something unprecedented. A coalition of species fighting in perfect coordination, using technologies specifically adapted to their unique characteristics. The Nightweaver conducted this symphony of destruction like a maestro, its quantum consciousness linking with the fleet's commanders, coordinating their movements with impossible precision. Lyran crystal ships refracted dark energy beams from human vessels, multiplying their power. Vril gas clouds absorbed enemy fire and channeled it into Meren depth hunters' weapons. Nexus cybercruisers processed battlefield data through quantum networks, predicting and countering collective tactics before they could be implemented. The Eternal Dominion's massive weapons finally locked onto the Nightweaver, preparing to deliver a killing blow. But at that crucial moment, Drake revealed their final secret. The ship's quantum consciousness reached out, not to attack, but to communicate. Through the neural network, it touched the minds of every being in the collective fleet. "See the truth," Drake commanded, as the Nightweaver broadcast the combined knowledge of humanity and all their allies directly into the minds of their opponents. The truth of the collective's history, the potential they had suppressed, the future they had stolen, all of it laid bare. Across the collective fleet, weapons powered down. Ship after ship broke formation. The empire that had ruled through lies and manipulation couldn't survive the light of truth. Even Vaxthal, seeing the full weight of history through the quantum link, felt his certainty crumble. "Stand down," he finally commanded, his voice heavy with the weight of centuries. "Stand down, all vessels. The collective is ended." In the aftermath, as the combined fleet hung in space around the Eternal Dominion, Sarah Chen's hologram appeared before representatives of every species present. "This is not a victory for humanity alone," she declared. "This is a victory for all of us, and now we have a chance to build something new. Not an empire of control, but a federation of equals, each species advancing in their own way, sharing knowledge, growing together." The Nightweaver's quantum consciousness pulsed with approval, its dark hull now gleaming with the combined light of 1,000 alien suns. Through the neural link, Drake felt the ship's satisfaction, not just at winning the battle, but at fulfilling its true purpose. They had not just broken chains, they had forged new bonds. As the various fleet commanders began discussions about their new alliance, Drake stood on his bridge, watching the stars. Humanity had hidden in darkness for centuries, advancing in secret, waiting for the right moment. Now, finally, they could step into the light, not as conquerors, but as liberators. Not as rulers, but as teachers. Not as masters, but as friends. The age of the collective was over. The age of cooperation had begun.
The quantum sensors aboard the Celestial Seeker pulsed with an unfamiliar rhythm as the research vessel dropped out of fold space at the edge of an unremarkable solar system. Dr. Crintax's peripheral eyes twitched with excitement while their main optical cluster remained fixed on the data stream. After 3 centuries of exploration, something truly unique had appeared on their instruments. "Secondary confirmation complete," announced first observer Veklara, her crystalline form catching the light from nearby monitors. "The electromagnetic patterns are unlike anything in the Galactic database." Dr. Crintax's tentacles rippled with anticipation as they manipulated the holographic controls. The third planet of this system wasn't particularly remarkable, a water-rich world with moderate temperatures and a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere. But the electromagnetic signatures emanating from its surface defied conventional explanation. "These patterns," Crintax murmured, "they're not random noise. They're not even organized in any recognizable communication format. They're evolving." The research vessel's adaptive camouflage engaged as they entered the system's outer boundary, rendering them invisible to primitive detection systems. As they approached the third planet, the mystery only deepened. The surface was dotted with sprawling metropolitan centers, connected by networks of transportation and communication infrastructure. But unlike any other civilized world they'd encountered, these structures showed no standardization, no unified architectural philosophy. "Fascinating," Crintax whispered, directing the ship's quantum imagers toward a major population center. "Look at how they build, some structures reach for the sky while others spread horizontally. They're not following any optimization algorithms at all. Veclara moved closer to the display, her crystalline form harmonizing with the ship's sensors to enhance the resolution. "Doctor, you should see these population density readings. They're clustering together in patterns that defy social efficiency metrics." The research team spent 3 local solar rotations observing the planet's inhabitants. They were bipedal organisms, clearly tool users, but their technology level was scattered across an impossibly wide spectrum. Some still burned fossil fuels while others were taking their first steps into quantum computing. They fought wars with primitive projectile weapons while simultaneously developing fusion power. "They're advancing without any logical progression," Crintax noted in their research log. "It's as if they're discovering technologies at random, driven by some chaotic internal force rather than following the natural order of scientific development." But it was the neurological readings that truly captured Crintax's attention. Using the ship's most sensitive instruments, they began mapping the neural patterns of the planet's dominant species. The results were impossible. "Look at these synaptic frequencies," they explained to the research team during their first formal briefing. "Their brains are firing in patterns that shouldn't be stable. They're constantly on the edge of neural chaos, yet somehow this instability is driving innovation rather than collapse." The ship's AI, programmed with the collective knowledge of thousands of civilizations, couldn't make sense of the data either. These creatures, these humans, were operating outside of every known model of technological and social development. As days turned into weeks, Dr. Crintax became increasingly obsessed with understanding these contradictory beings. They watched as humans collaborated on massive engineering projects while simultaneously competing over seemingly arbitrary resources. They observed them create beautiful works of art that served no practical purpose, yet were valued more highly than functional technologies. "They're not just defying optimization," Crintax realized one night, their tentacles trembling with the implications. "They're thriving because of their inefficiencies." The breakthrough came when they began analyzing human entertainment broadcasts. These creatures spent enormous resources creating elaborate fictional scenarios, stories that never happened, could never happen, yet somehow influenced their real-world behavior. "They're not just capable of imagining impossible things," Crintax recorded in their personal log, "they're driven to make the impossible possible. Every rule we've discovered about technological progression, social development, even cognitive evolution, they're breaking them all, and they don't even realize they're doing it." But it was Veclara who first recognized the potential danger. During a routine scan of military installations, she detected something that sent shivers through her crystalline form. "Doctor," she called out, her harmonic voice unusually discordant, "you need to see this." The humans had noticed them. Despite their advanced camouflage, despite operating well outside the range of known detection technologies, somewhere on that chaotic planet, someone had built something new, something that shouldn't exist yet, and it was pointing right at them. "Impossible," Crintax breathed, but the evidence was undeniable. Their presence had been detected using principles that, according to every known law of physics and technological progression, this species shouldn't have discovered for at least another 1,000 years. As the celestial seeker's sensors registered multiple launching signatures from the planet's surface, Dr. Crintax made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Instead of retreating, they moved closer. After all, their mission was to study the unknown, and they had just discovered something more unknown than anything in recorded history. They were about to learn exactly why human unpredictability made them the most fascinating, and potentially the most dangerous, species in the known galaxy. Dr. Crintax's decision to capture human test subjects was not made lightly. 300 years of xenobiological research had taught them that direct interaction always carried risks, but these humans, these impossible beings, required closer study. "Our containment protocols are designed to hold creatures 3 times their size and strength," Senior Security Officer Maldrek assured them, his armored carapace gleaming under the laboratory lights. "The specimens will be perfectly secure." The first abduction went smoothly, almost too smoothly. Their target was a female scientist working late in an isolated research facility. The quantum teleporter plucked her from her laboratory without triggering a single alarm. Dr. Sarah Chen, according to her identification, was their first test subject. What happened next shattered every assumption they had about human capabilities. Within 6 hours of regaining consciousness, Dr. Chen had not only grasped the basic principles of their universal translation matrix but had begun asking questions about quantum field theory that made the research team deeply uncomfortable. She showed no signs of the expected psychological trauma from alien abduction. Instead, she displayed an almost predatory curiosity about her captor's technology. "You're using a modified Casimir effect for your artificial gravity, aren't you?" she asked during what was supposed to be a basic cognitive assessment. "But your field generators are operating at only 60% efficiency. I could help you optimize them." Crintax ordered 2 more subjects captured, a military strategist and a young artist. Each demonstrated equally disturbing capabilities. The soldier, Captain Marcus Rodriguez, systematically tested every aspect of his containment cell, not in an attempt to escape, but to understand its principles. The artist, Maya Patel, began creating complex mathematical models using nothing but the food paste they provided, spreading equations across the cell floor. "They're adapting too quickly," Veclara warned during an emergency research council. "Every interaction with our technology accelerates their understanding exponentially." The human scientist has already intuited principles of quantum mechanics that took our civilization millennia to discover. But Dr. Crintax couldn't stop. The humans' neural patterns were revealing something unprecedented. Their chaotic thought processes weren't a disadvantage as initially assumed. Their minds existed in a perpetual state of controlled instability, allowing them to make cognitive leaps that defied conventional learning models. The breakthrough, and the disaster, came on the 7th day. Dr. Chen had been engaging the research team in increasingly complex discussions about theoretical physics, drawing out details about their technology. Nobody noticed that each conversation was more focused, more specific, until it was too late. The containment field collapsed at precisely 0300 hours ship time. Not through brute force or complex hacking, but because Dr. Chen had used their own scientific curiosity against them. Through carefully crafted questions, she had pieced together enough information about their systems to exploit a fundamental flaw in the field harmonics. The security response was immediate but ineffective. Captain Rodriguez had apparently been preparing for this moment, using his military training to anticipate and counter their standard security protocols. Maya, the supposed artist, demonstrated an uncanny ability to navigate their ship's architecture, as if her mathematical drawings had been a way of mapping the vessel's layout. "Remarkable," Dr. Crintax noted in their final log entry before the evacuation alarm sounded. "They didn't just study our technology, they understood our psychology. Every question, every interaction, was gathering data about how we think, how we respond. They turned our entire research protocol back on us." The 3 humans didn't attempt to capture the ship, as the security team had feared. Instead, they made their way to the quantum communications array. Before anyone could stop them, they transmitted a burst of data toward Earth, data that contained not just proof of alien existence, but detailed technical specifications of advanced technology. "You don't understand what you've done," Veclara told Dr. Chen as security finally contained the situation. "Your species isn't ready for this level of advancement. It will destabilize your entire civilization." Dr. Chen's response would haunt the research team for years to come. "Ready? We've been ready. We've been imagining, theorizing, and preparing for this moment for centuries through what you dismissed as chaotic entertainment. Every story, every movie, every game about alien contact was preparation. We've explored every possibility, every scenario, not through careful scientific advancement, but through something you can't understand, human imagination." As the Celestial Seeker's sensors detected multiple launch signatures from Earth's military installations, Dr. Crintax realized their greatest mistake. They had studied humans as subjects, never considering that the humans were studying them right back. And now, humanity had exactly what it needed to make its chaotic, impossible leaps of innovation, proof that their wildest theories were possible. The test subjects were quickly returned to Earth, not out of mercy, but necessity. The research team needed to evacuate before humanity's response arrived. As they prepared for emergency fold space transition, Dr. Krintax made one final log entry. We came to study a pre-contact civilization. Instead, we may have just awakened the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The humans didn't just learn our technology, they learned us. And I fear what they'll do with that knowledge. The High Council of the Galactic Scientific Authority had never convened an emergency session in its 12,000 years of existence. Until now. Dr. Krintax's tentacles writhed nervously as they faced the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. The quantum projection showed each council member in their full splendor, crystalline beings, energy constructs, and various organic forms all united in their concern over the situation on Earth. "You've violated every protocol of pre-contact observation," the chief arbiter's thoughts resonated through the chamber. "But that's not why we're here. Show them the latest data, Doctor." The holographic display shifted to show Earth's rapidly changing technological signature. In the mere weeks since the escape of the test subjects, human civilization had begun advancing at an impossible rate. The quantum data burst sent by Dr. Chen had sparked a technological revolution that defied all known models of societal development. "They're not just replicating our technology," Krintax explained, "they're improving it. The containment field harmonics that Dr. Chen compromised. They've already developed 12 different variations, each more efficient than our original design." The council chamber erupted in harmonic discord as the implications became clear. Humanity wasn't following the careful, methodical path of technological advancement that every other species had taken. They were leapfrogging centuries of development, driven by something no other species possessed, the ability to imagine possibilities without first understanding limitations. "The humans have achieved in weeks what took us millennia," Veclara added, her crystalline form resonating with concern. "But it's not just their technological advancement that should worry us. Look at their response pattern." The display shifted again, showing how Earth's nations had reacted to the proof of alien existence. Instead of fracturing into competing factions as all models had predicted, humanity had done something unprecedented. They had unified, but not in the orderly way other civilizations did. It was a chaos-driven unity, with different nations contributing their unique strengths while maintaining their distinct identities. "Their military forces remain separate but coordinated," Veclara continued. "Their scientific communities are competing and collaborating simultaneously, driving innovation through both cooperation and rivalry. It's a completely unstable system that somehow produces stable results." The council was shown footage of the new human defense initiatives. Countries that had been enemies for centuries were now sharing resources and technology. The humans had taken the basic principles gleaned from the alien technology and applied them in ways that the galaxy's finest minds had never considered. "They're not trying to replicate our specific technologies," Krintax explained, their voice trembling. "They're using our tech as proof that certain things are possible, then finding their own ways to achieve the same results. Sometimes their solutions are crude, sometimes they're brilliant, but they're always unexpected." The display showed a human facility where they had already developed their own version of quantum field technology. Instead of following the logical progression of scientific advancement, they had somehow intuited principles that should have taken centuries to discover. Their method made no sense, it was inefficient, potentially dangerous, but undeniably effective. "Most concerning," Veclara added, "is their military response. They're not just developing defensive capabilities. They're preparing for every possible scenario, including ones we would never consider. Their entertainment media, what they call science fiction, has apparently been preparing them for this moment for generations." The council watched in stunned silence as humans demonstrated prototype weapons that combined their primitive technology with advanced concepts in ways that should not have been possible. They had taken the basic principles of alien science and weaponized them in ways that no other species had ever imagined. "We have to make a decision," the chief arbiter announced. "Do we initiate official first contact and try to guide their development, or do we attempt to contain this situation?" Before the council could debate, their session was interrupted by an urgent transmission. Earth's previously scattered electromagnetic emissions had suddenly organized into a clear, focused signal. The humans were broadcasting a message, not just to the celestial seeker, but to the galaxy at large. As the message played through the council chamber, Dr. Crintax felt their primary heart stop. The humans weren't begging for contact or threatening retaliation. Instead, they were announcing their presence to the galaxy, declaring their readiness to join the galactic community, but on their own terms. They had somehow deduced the existence of the Galactic Council and were now addressing it directly. "They're offering an exchange," Veclara translated, her crystalline form flickering with disbelief. "They want to share their unique perspectives and innovations in exchange for galactic knowledge. But there's something else, they've included proof of a new technology they've developed. Something we've never seen before." The council erupted into chaos as the implications became clear. The humans hadn't just caught up to some of their technology, they'd already surpassed it in some areas. The breaking point had been reached, but not the one anyone had expected. It wasn't humans who were breaking under the pressure of advanced knowledge, it was the galaxy's carefully ordered systems that were being forced to adapt to humanity's chaos. Dr. Crintax realized that their original research question had been wrong all along. They shouldn't have been studying whether humans were ready for advanced technology. They should have been asking whether the galaxy was ready for humans. The Galactic Council's decision to attempt containment of Earth proved to be their greatest miscalculation in 12 millennia of unified governance. The containment fleet emerged from fold space in perfect formation, 300 of the most advanced vessels in the galaxy, representing the combined military might of 1,000 civilizations. Their mission was simple: establish a quarantine barrier around Earth's solar system until humanity could be properly controlled and integrated into galactic society. They expected resistance. They expected humanity's crude but effective hybrid technologies. What they didn't expect was joy. "Look at their communication patterns," Veclara reported from her station aboard the Celestial Seeker, now serving as an observation vessel for the containment operation. "They're not transmitting fear or anger. They're excited." Dr. Crintax studied the data with growing unease. Humanity's response to the arrival of an overwhelming alien fleet was entirely wrong. Instead of panic or submission, their global networks were buzzing with enthusiasm. They were treating the greatest military force ever assembled as an opportunity rather than a threat. The first sign that something was wrong came when the containment fleet's quantum communication network experienced an unexpected harmonic resonance. Before any countermeasures could be implemented, every ship in the fleet received a transmission that bypassed all known security protocols. "Greetings," the message began in perfect galactic standard. "Thank you for the demonstration of fold space technology on such a massive scale. The data we've collected will be invaluable." The fleet commanders had barely processed this breach when their sensors detected something impossible: human vessels were appearing inside their formation. Not approaching from Earth, but emerging from what appeared to be artificially generated fold space pockets scattered throughout the fleet's deployment zone. "They've weaponized our own sensor networks," Veclara realized with crystalline horror. "Every scan we performed of their system provided them with data about our technology. They didn't need to develop their own fold space drive, they simply learned to hijack ours." The human ships were crewed by galactic standards, retrofitted chemical rockets bristling with hybrid technology that combined primitive human engineering with reversed-engineered alien principles. But their tactics defied all military logic. They maneuvered in ways that no sane species would attempt, pushing their hybrid technologies far beyond their theoretical limits. "Their pilots are accepting casualty rates that should be psychologically impossible," reported the fleet commander. "They're treating their ships as expendable weapons rather than precious technology. Dr. Krintax watched in fascination as human vessels deliberately overloaded their hybrid systems to create localized disruptions in spacetime. They were using their own ships as sacrificial pawns, each loss calculated to provide tactical advantages that no galactic military doctrine had ever considered. The containment fleet's superior technology meant nothing against an enemy that simply didn't care about technological superiority. Humanity fought with desperate creativity, using every failure as an opportunity to learn, adapt, and overcome. But the true turning point came when the humans revealed their masterstroke. Hidden within the seemingly chaotic movements of their fleet was a pattern. They weren't just fighting, they were herding the galactic ships into specific formations. By the time anyone recognized the trap, it was too late. Energy spike detected, Veclara announced, her crystalline form resonating with alarm. It's coming from Earth's moon. The humans had turned their entire lunar satellite into a weapon, using the principles gleaned from Dr. Chen's quantum data burst to create something entirely new. The moon's mass itself became a focal point for a quantum field that no one had ever theorized could exist. In an instant, the mighty containment fleet found itself trapped in a localized bubble of altered spacetime. Their advanced drives were useless, their weapons inert. Humanity had effectively created a prison out of the very fabric of space. Impossible, the fleet commander transmitted. This technology cannot exist. The principles behind it were considered impossible until we proved they weren't, came the human response. You showed us that fold space technology was possible. We simply imagined new ways to use it. As the containment fleet hung helpless in space, Earth transmitted its terms. They had no interest in being contained or controlled. Instead, they offered a choice, partnership or isolation. The galaxy could either accept humanity's chaotic nature and work with them as equals, or Earth would use its new technology to seal off its entire solar system, cutting itself off from galactic civilization until it was ready to emerge on its own terms. Dr. Krintax, watching from the safety of their research vessel, finally understood the true human factor. It wasn't their technology, their adaptability, or even their creativity that made them so formidable. It was their unique combination of reckless courage and methodical preparation, their ability to simultaneously cooperate and compete, their talent for turning defeats into opportunities. They're not just a new species, Krintax recorded in their final research log. They're a new type of civilization, one that thrives on the very chaos that our galactic society has spent millennia trying to eliminate. And now we have to decide, do we risk changing everything we know by accepting them, or do we risk them changing everything on their own? The emergency session of the Galactic Council stretched into its third day as representatives debated humanity's ultimatum. The containment fleet remained trapped in Earth's quantum prison, a constant reminder of how thoroughly they had underestimated this young species. Dr. Krintax stood before the council once again, but this time with a revelation that would change everything. Their tentacles moved with uncharacteristic certainty as they activated the holographic display. Honorable Council, we've been asking the wrong questions, they began. We were so focused on understanding how humans developed their abilities that we never asked why their evolution took such an unusual path. Now we know. The display showed a comparative analysis of genetic structures across thousands of species. At its center was the human genome, with one particular sequence highlighted. This isn't natural evolution, Veclara added, her crystalline form pulsing with excitement. The chaos in their neural patterns, their impossible adaptability, their drive to imagine the impossible, it's all by design. The council chamber erupted in harmonic discord as the implications became clear. The human genome contained markers of advanced engineering, but not from any known civilization. These modifications were ancient, predating even the council itself. They're not an accident, Krintax continued. They're a safeguard, created by someone or something that foresaw a threat to galactic civilization that even we can't detect. Their chaotic nature, their ability to make impossible leaps of logic, their drive to prepare for every scenario, it's all intentionally engineered into their species. The evidence was irrefutable. Humanity had been designed as an evolutionary wildcard, a species capable of thinking in ways that no logically evolved civilization could match. Their entertainment, their constant imagining of impossible scenarios, their drive to prepare for everything from alien invasion to the end of reality itself, it wasn't random cultural development. It was their species executing its core programming. But the greatest shock came when the humans revealed they had already discovered this truth. Dr. Chen's voice rang through the council chamber as Earth transmitted its response. "We found the markers in our own genome decades ago. We've been trying to understand their purpose ever since. That's why we reacted to your arrival the way we did, not with fear, but with the certainty that we were fulfilling our species' purpose." The council watched in stunned silence as humanity shared its own research. They had known they were engineered but had kept it secret from their own population, allowing their society to develop naturally while a select group worked to understand their true purpose. "The threat hasn't arrived yet," Dr. Chen's transmission continued, "but our collective imagination has already conceived of thousands of possibilities. We've spent generations preparing for threats that most species wouldn't even think to fear. That's why we need to join galactic civilization now, not as subjects to be contained, but as partners in preparing for whatever is coming." The quantum prison around the containment fleet dissolved as humanity demonstrated its good faith. The hybrid technologies they had developed, their impossible innovations, all were freely shared with the Council. But it was their methodology that proved most valuable, their ability to imagine and prepare for the impossible. Dr. Crintax's final presentation to the Council wasn't about human technology or their military capabilities. Instead, they showed the vast library of human entertainment, their science fiction, their disaster scenarios, their endless imagining of both apocalypse and triumph. "This is humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization," Crintax explained. "Not their technology, but their ability to imagine and prepare for everything that might go wrong. They're not just engineered to be adaptable, they're engineered to help other species adapt." The Council's decision was unanimous. Humanity would not be contained, they would be integrated. Their chaotic nature, once seen as a threat, was now recognized as vital to galactic survival. As the first official human delegation arrived at the Council chamber, Dr. Crintax reflected on the price of curiosity. Their simple research mission had unveiled not just a new species, but a new understanding of the galaxy itself. Humanity's creators had hidden them on an unremarkable planet, allowing them to develop naturally until they were needed. Evolution's greatest jest, Crintax recorded in their final log, was convincing us that chaos was a weakness. The humans show us that true strength lies not in perfect order, but in the ability to thrive in disorder. They are not just our wild cards, they are our survival insurance. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, something stirred, moving toward ordered, predictable civilizations that would never see it coming. But humanity was ready. They had already imagined this moment 1,000 times in their stories, and now they would help the galaxy prepare for whatever impossibility awaited them all.